Right now, we are good to go. Do you see that beautiful guy? This is a great time in life. My glasses are good. I'm still winking on one side of the face, but the sweater was on point. The watch was just like, who could beat a titanium centergraph, yellow dial, and that tie. I must say so myself. That's a nice tie.
Could you even feel that watch on your wrist, or
Say that again.
could you even feel that watch on your wrist?
Barely, honestly. I could feel it more than the aluminum version. Let me just tell the people that we're online. How you doing today, Jay? Retired watch guy.
Faking it till I make it with this beautiful island shirt on.
Hey, there you go. I love it. Fake it until you make it. There are a lot of watch brands who are doing the same. So you're
Oh, so
doing
you're
what many are
are you
doing.
calling me a Mito? Are you calling me a
Oh,
Hamilton? Because
see
I'm
now
feeling
you done
very
started.
Hamilton, very Shinola. You don't
You
know
started calling a
shit
watching.
from Shinola. That's this guy today. It's
I
hump
just want to
day.
say the views of Jay or Jay Salon. I love Shinola. They just did a Jay Dilla watch. Remember I told you about that? They finally released it.
I didn't say anything negative about Shinola. I said the phrase "you don't know shit from Shinola," and I was
Okay,
like, "That's me." I no
I
issues
just
with
want to make
recommending
that
shit. I
very
hate
clear.
movement watches. I'm putting it out there. Movement watches are terrible. Somebody had to say it.
What do you mean MVMT is what you mean?
Is that they're not called movement watches? They're called MVMTs. I mean, if that, sorry, then yes, those.
I think so.
I just blew the only chance we had as a sponsorship because they sponsor
Yeah.
every podcast. They'll just sprinkle a little money anywhere. But we make wooden watches and practical watches for a price that most can afford.
100%. Hey,
Okay.
accessible watches are needed, Jay. Jeez. People need some watches. Anyways, happy hump day, everybody. It is Watch Talk Live. It is a beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in Central Florida. A little bit of a later show for you, but why not? We got some late shows too, right? So today we're gonna go over. We're just hunting watches today. It's hump day. We're relaxing, doing a lot of research for clients today. People are they're buying again, Jay. They're buying again. So I figured it's a good time to recheck the market. I was hunting for a Pikachu Daytona. I couldn't find any, or any for like a reasonable price. I wanted to, scroll the web and some of the
Why
dealers and
don't you
see.
show us what a Pikachu Daytona is? Because I've been in the business for a while and this is the first time I've heard of that. What's going
You don't
on,
know what a
John D?
Pikachu is?
Sequan, can you just please show us a photo and stop being condescending?
Oh wow, what's going on, John D? Good to see you. Stay dry out there. It was very rainy here in
Oh
Florida
yeah, we sent
yesterday.
the rain out to him because oh my God, was it raining
It
yesterday?
was bad. We
It
were
was
not
really
ready for
bad.
that at all. Wait one
Wait,
second. Let me turn
what?
my fan
This
on.
is one of these is a Pikachu, of course. In great show fashion, Sequan has to give
How
a
do you
little
not?
behind the curtains view. As you can hear the beautiful chair rolling
Oh, sorry.
around.
I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. How
All
do
right,
you
so
not
which
know
one of
this is a
these?
Pikachu? This is a Pikachu.
Which one? That's the
This.
Pikachu?
This is a Pikachu. Pika Pika.
I'm a Pokemon fan and I've been selling watches for a long time. I swear to God, bro, this is the first time live reaction to me
You're,
hearing
you're,
his new
you're
Pikachu.
lying. You're lying. I don't believe that. You of all people, I don't believe this.
You're from the Virgin Islands. You know what kind of accusation saying somebody's lying is. It's one thing to say
That's what I'm
I
saying.
told an untruth. Is another thing to call me a liar. Anyways, I've never heard of this being called a Pikachu, but I mean, I get it. I guess black and
Wait, so
yellow.
do you know what's the Pika Blue?
Hey, Cloud Ken, I have no clue
What's
what the
good?
Pika Blue is. Show us. Give me. Let me see it. Let me see it.
Oh man, this is fun.
So what's the riot shoe? Like, how you gonna name it Pikachu? Okay, the Pika Blue is fire. Now I remember this because
Yeah.
I
So
think Cloud Ken had mentioned that he liked the Pika Blue when we were doing
exact
a
Clouds a
feud.
fan.
Yeah, I like the Pika Blue. I think that this name fits. I've never heard the Pikachu referred to as the Pikachu. I swear to God, bro.
Really?
I swear. But I stopped selling Rolexes, dead ass. I stopped selling Rolexes like 2 years ago. When you really think about it, once they
Oh yeah. Oh
introduced
yeah. You got
CPO,
caught up in
like
CPO.
yeah, like I'll be honest with you. I would be interested to hear your thoughts on CPO and if you think it was the right move. I mean, for Rolex, it doesn't matter. They're gonna sell, but
Well, should we check out CPO somewhere?
Oh, let's do it.
Where should we go? You want to go Booker? You want to go watches in Switzerland?
Why wouldn't we go to the Rolex's main hand in the industry? Let's go to Bucher.
All right, let's go Booker.
You always say that like you're Eastern European.
But I don't think I don't. I'm probably not even saying it right. I just try to have like some type of accent because they're names that I'll always mess up. So I feel like if once in a while I'm recorded saying like a decent Swiss pronunciation, that somebody out there is like, well, he's not a poser. He knows
I've never heard
what
the
he's
Swiss
talking about.
roll their R's the way you just did, but
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, man. Jeez. Anyways. Oh wait, no. Where's the Rolex CPO? I
yeah,
don't want this
that's
CPO.
that's kind
My
of
bad.
hilarious that they started off with Cartier. Like it's like, what about Rolex, bro?
Or like we're in Switzerland. What's going on here? Let's slow down here.
Turn off the VPN, Scoop.
I don't have a VPN on.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay. Wow. You think that if they were like the main retailer for Rolex, that they'd have some
Oh, there we
front
go. There we go.
facing
No, I missed the
Rolex.
green button. I missed the green button. There we go.
Oh, look at those beautiful back pictures that I
Oh, but
can
why
tell
it was
every
Swiss
detail
franc?
with. Well, because we're in Switzerland, Sequan.
No, no, I'm in USA.
Oh
US.
God. But okay, this is
Oh
too
my
much
gosh.
dead silence. What's
All
your
right.
take on
Yeah.
CPO, Sequan?
So
Give me your take on CPO.
I think that the idea of CPO is great because you're given a verified place to buy,
Okay,
right?
but for Rolex,
Well, okay, so let me stop looking at the screen for a second. So I think let's just screw Booker. Anyways, CPO I think is great. I think that the idea of CPO is great in terms I think it's great to have that place for the very virgin buyer to buy a watch and feel safe. Right? They're not savvy. They don't know about CQ the watch guy. Don't know about Jay. They barely know anything. They just woke up one day, said, "Hey, I would love to get a Submariner today." Realized that they went to their Rolex AD. They cannot acquire that watch as easily as they once could have, and they don't want to go through all the stress. Right? That's what CPO ideally should be. Now, if CPO was, let's say, 5 to 10% more than a secondary market price, I think all would be good in the world and there would be no conversation to talk about. But I'm going to attempt to try CPO again. Let's try watches of Switzerland.
Oakley gets the right answer. Ding 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 ding
Hey,
ding ding ding
Buckley.
ding 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 ding. So the thing is, I agree with you that CPO programs are great, but I think that Rolex solved a problem that they never had. I don't think we like. I think that Rolexes never really had an issue. Well, there always is counterfeiting issues. Other brands dealt with that more so than Rolex, and I think that the pre-owned space for Rolex didn't need a disturbance. I do not understand why they did CPO beyond them trying to touch every pre-owned watch that's sold. And I get it. Like they just want to retaste the they want another 20, $50 on every pre-owned watch. I get it. But I don't see
Sir,
why they did it.
$20 to $50. You know how much that CPO fee is. It ain't
Hey,
no
hey,
20
hey,
to fifty
hey.
dollars.
I'm not trying to, tell
No, no,
people
we're
too
not divulging anything, but it ain't no
I'm
fifty
just giving,
dollars.
but I'm just saying, let's just say it's $50. Let's just say every pre-owned watch that's resold through the CPO program is $50. They get to double sell everything. And then, oh God, never mind. I'm not going to go into it. But so would you agree that maybe Rolex didn't need this and that this is just a cash grab for them?
I think, yeah, it was an easy cash grab, right? Because who's taking the
Oh, Sequan coming in with the hot take.
but
Somebody clip that up, guys. Clip it up. Put it on TikTok.
because the repair money, man. To get a watch CPO, it has to be service, right? So you're getting so much money just on the repair side. It's worth it. Not to mention the CPO fee. Not
Who's
to
it
mention,
worth it to? Rolex or the consumer?
Rolex. I think
Okay.
eventually the consumer will benefit, but no time soon.
10 years, 15 years from now, maybe. The thing is, the problem I have with CPO is like they made that time constraint of like, what is it? You have to be within 3 years or like after 3 years. So
I
then
think now 2 years they just reduced it.
so they just try to kill the flipper, and I get that. Like, I understand you don't want people just buying a bunch of date just so that they can get a sub and then they flip these things to make money. I get that, but it's just like we don't need CPO Batman, CPO Batgirl, CPO vintage Rolexes. Any watch older than 15 years, I think that a CPO makes sense for, mainly because one, a lot of watches older than 10 years don't have their papers. So you pretty much get a reissued papers, unless, some collectors do keep that stuff.
I
But
like
anything
that. I like that.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, there is a need for CPO for watches that are older. But I think that when we're dealing with these contemporary watches, it just feels like a cash grab. It kind of feels like a slap to the face. Like, you already hold the biggest mind share in watches, right? And now you want to double dip on the pre-owned side. But again, it's the mafia. Are you going to tell the mafia no, that they can't get their vig? That's the reason why, like, one of the big things that I had to get out of the industry for was because I felt like I was literally part of the mob, bro. Because that's some mafia shit.
So now you're gonna talk about the mob.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm,
Uh,
I'm Puerto
uh,
Italian. I got roots to Sicily. I have no problem with the mob. But Rolex, if they're a nonprofit moving like a mafia, I said it.
all right, so let's talk about this Yacht Master 42 white gold. I'm trying to find out what year. Not seeing it. Doesn't matter. They have it for 37,450. David SW, who's known to be a very good dealer but premium on prices, you could get a new old stock unworn for 34,575, or you could get an excellent condition from 2022 for 28,975.
So I don't get the $9,000 premium. And the worst part about CPO is that, like, there is no discount. They make it so that, like, it's a
Exactly.
hard line. And
Tell them.
I don't understand why, me as a consumer, why I would buy a CPO when I can go to somebody who's reputable, who's been in the business for 10, 15 years and is selling this watch NOS for less. Somebody wore that watch. Somebody, like, I don't get the value proposition. And it's not a car. So no, no. Anything that's within the last 5 years is kind of disgusting to me. I said it.
Yeah, and so the sucky part here is a lot. As you know, a lot of these dealers purchase bulk Rolex at the peak times, right? So a lot of these dealers have very inflated costs on these watches. Therefore, they're translating it down to the consumers because they're not in the secondary market, right? So they don't know how to monitor this type of situation. It's just you just see misprice everything. Like even this Pro Master, I think is way over the market. Even this Rainbow, I think should be under 5. There's nothing here where I can say like, oh, okay, this makes sense to buy. Like even white gold Daytona on a strap, 50K. Just I don't know. The Chilean makes sense.
Hey, once you run, oh, I mean, okay, you're right. I guess it would. But I'm saying once the Rolex warranties ran out, maybe you can make the argument. I was like, all right, let me get the CPO because it's going to come with the warranty from the factory, blah, blah, blah. But anything that's younger than 5 years, don't think it should be CPO. I don't think that, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And then, like, from what I was told, is that, like, certain buyers of these watches, they cannot CPO them for, like, they might have to hold on to the watch for a year because they don't fit the criteria. So it's like,
Correct.
if I want to sell a pre-owned Rolex and I'm a Rolex AD and I buy a sub from somebody who bought it a year ago, now I have to sit on that sub because I can't sell it pre-owned. No, I can only sell CPO. So I just don't see, like, it's mafia.
That is an interesting thought, right? Because what if you were a CPO Rolex AD, somebody brought back a watch that's a year old to trade in towards another Rolex piece or another brand that you have? What do you do with that piece? I don't know. CPO is confusing.
You pray on it. You ask the good Lord to guide you through this because you
All
probably
right,
have to
let's
sell
go
it
to
to
some
another
other
dealer, more
watches.
than likely, somebody who can sell it.
Yes, you wholesale it and then it just ends up on the market that way. That is the correct answer. Anyways, today we are hunting watches under 25,000, And is there a different way to sort Watch Recon? And for those of you who don't use Watch Recon, it's a great resource. It sources it's an aggregator. It checks all the forums. It does Reddit Watch Exchange now, and it's a really good place to hunt some gems. I'm just gonna add some more parameters here for us. What brands are we looking for today?
They definitely have a range. You get everything from a Tag Heuer link to, yeah. Panel. Do they polish CPO watches? Can I be sure that they would be no scratches? So that's a great question from all. It really depends on the watch. I don't think that they polish them within the warranty. So, like if you were to buy a CPO watch that's within Rolex's warranty, I think they do elect to not polish them. But the things after 5 years, I do think that they fully refurbish them. Now, to say that there would be no scratches, no, I cannot confirm that for you. And I've actually sold CPO watches with too many scratches on them. So I do not, to say this without being too harsh, I don't think every CPO watch is treated the same. Let's just say that. Yeah, Buckley said it very well. As CPO watches are no different from other gray markets, they're just done to Rolex. Buckley hit the name on it. Time machine CPO watches are possibly no watches are horribly polished. That's true.
Yeah, yeah. The CPO, it really. How do we say this?
No, I know it's so hard to
Yeah,
you're kind of like towing the line, and it's like it's no disrespect to Rolex, because it's like at the end of the day, we have to remember that there's different service centers handling different CPO services. So it's
exactly.
like you never know. No two subs are alike when like after they come out of CPO. So it really depends, and that's why I think that it is important for people to ask for actual live images, and I think it's kind of crazy that you can only see the black images on these websites because how do you inspect these watches?
That's actually a great question because with those black images, it's really hard to figure out the condition of the watches. And now you're gonna make me go back to. I was trying to get away from these watches.
Well,
So now you got
what
me going back. But go
what
ahead.
you don't know is that when you click on those images, they give you a full 360, so you can get a good view of every aspect of the watch. So why would you need additional photos? See?
Oh no, wait, did we lose signal?
I think your camera just went up, but we seem to be good. You're
All right.
back. You're back.
So wait, let me see if I can make the 360 work. Or is my internet too slow?
No.
Are we dying? Okay.
What happened? Cloud Ken says, oh wait, Vimal said, thanks, Buckley. So they rip you, so they rip you, gouge you out one eye, and then they sell it to them. Wait, I'm not reading this correctly. Sequan, can you read? The coffee's beating my butt.
Thanks, Buckley. So they rip you, gouge out one eye when you sell to them, and then the other when you buy CPO.
Yep.
Something like that. The CPO OPs do not give out the original white tag. They give out a new CPO white tag. The original is better. This is correct, CloudKen. So now they are differentiators with CPO products, like not having the original tags. I think they don't give you the original box either, Jay. I think they give you like a
No,
CPO box or pouch or something like that.
they don't give you anything back original. They
Exactly.
I
So it's
traded the
it's
Neo Pepsi into Buck CPO and it had fake spring bars. Like, dude, and you'd be surprised how often that happens in all brands, not just Rolex. Like, but that's crazy. That is crazy. Fake spring bars. Oof.
yeah. People will cut corners wherever they can, right? And like, look at this picture. You can't tell if there's scratches here.
But that's what I'm saying. And then like the bigger thing was, right? I remember one of my associates, not my associates, one of my like a person I worked with had looked at these photos and like he was talking to somebody on the phone and it was like it was flawless. And he pulled the watch out and there was like scratches right under. You see, like there's so much areas right
There's
underneath the
one right
lug.
here.
Yeah, you can't see it. And it's like so when the person gets the watch and the scratches at the like what is that the around 8 7 o'clock How are they supposed to tell from that photo? You know?
It's very, very hard. So if I could see that scratch in the photo, that means in person it's really, because you know how the high polish looks.
Hmm. CloudCan said London Jewelers CPO offered me 3K for an Explorer 39. That sounds
Oh my gosh.
offensive. People are crazy.
Well, because they're just spitting out numbers, and there's a bunch of people who honestly don't know what they're talking about, and they're just ruining their pre-owned business. To be honest with you, and it's so right. They're taking one eye out, they're gouging the other eye out, and then they're buying back at current market prices. They're not going to buy back at the prices that they're selling now. They're not buying it at CPO market prices. So there's really no legitimate reason you should buy the CPO piece in 2025. Maybe 2028 things might calm down, but for the foreseeable future,
Well, no,
I
no,
don't
no, no,
see.
no. I think that if it's over 10 years, it makes some sense just because you get some heritage. Like a watch that's 10 years old, you may have some questions. We always talk about Periscope finding some crazy stuff on the vintage side. I do
True.
think that like if we're dealing with something that's not vintage, 10 years isn't vintage, but we're 5 to 10 years away from it being vintage. And there's nothing wrong with getting service papers for a watch like that. It was up for service. But anything within that Rolex warranty period, it's just robbery. It's a highway robbery. That's all it is. The question is, this is Buckley. The question is, do CPO watches make it to Geneva? No, they don't. CPO watches do not make it to Geneva. They are serviced in service centers. Well, depending on the region that they're taken in.
So what we could say, so we don't get sued,
Yes.
is that there are service centers all over the world, right? So like when I was in Dubai, there was a service center in Dubai that all my Rolex watches went to the Dubai service center. Unless it was very, very particular or like a very heavy service or vintage watch, it wouldn't go back to Geneva, right? So you have to do your own assumptions that if a watch is just getting a simple service and a CPO service, that it probably wouldn't be deemed necessary to go back to Switzerland, right? So I would let you guys use your imagination and you guys can figure all that out.
My reviews do not reflect Sequan's views. I'm telling you that 90% of those watches, unless they're super vintage and need to be verified, are not going to Geneva. My views do not reflect Sequan's views.
I just had to get my lawyer talking.
Nah, listen,
But
you're in the business. I'm retired. It's different.
yeah, this is very, very true. This is a nice Daytona 18950 for white dot steel. That bezel just looks clean. It could use a little bit of ink, but it's not over polished.
That's
I
nice.
would say Vimal though, like I, all the watches have been polished, right? Just all the watches have been polished. Whoever is telling you unworn, blah blah blah, you're paying for a comforting word. You know what I mean?
Well, what do you mean by that though?
Because the odds are to get like a truly unworn that does exist, but the odds are the guy who's wholesaling you a watch and that watch has been like to 5 different dealers, that watch isn't truly unworn. Or it is unworn, but there's still scratches on it. So oftentimes you should just get like a mint condition watch, which is gonna have some scratches, versus paying for the unworn watch that is gonna have scratches anyways. Because there are true unworn watches that have like no scratches, but then there are like mint condition watches that are of the same condition, but you're paying like 15% less. So I pay no, unless it's dated within that week or that month or something, I don't think you should pay a premium for an unworn watch. Unless it's something super rare or sealed or fully stickered. But in the day and age of stickers being ripped off of watches, why are you paying for an unworn, why are you paying an unworn premium?
So in the event with the David SW watch that we were talking about with the Explorers, he had the two different price points. Are you saying that essentially the unworn one, there's no real difference besides because there was one that was up
In
for
my opinion, in my opinion, like if you're paying the premium, I think one was for 28 and change, and the other was for 34. In my opinion, you're paying a $5,000 premium just to have comforting words told to you,
But
even
isn't
though
the unworn one with papers a little bit closer to like our current day?
it'd be a newer watch. It'd be so that's the thing. You're paying, in my opinion,
You're probably paying for the warranty.
you're paying for the warranty, and you're paying for the fact that it's newer. But condition wise, it's unworn. Nobody's worn it. But like if somebody breathes on it, there's gonna be a hairline. You know how it goes, bro. So I'm saying sometimes people pay 4 or 5 thousand extra for condition when the condition of the mint one would be pretty much the same thing, if not the same thing. So sometimes, like, I don't know, you shouldn't put too much into value into unworn. If the year is new, if it's a fresh card, if it looks good, I wouldn't. I personally wouldn't. I tell my guys, save your money,
That makes
buy your
sense.
wife a dinner.
Touche. Happy wife
All
to
right, watch
happy
recon
life.
ain't got nothing too good for us. Let's go to Takuya watches. Haven't popped in there for a while. See Pikachu. See, these are going up, man. I was just finding these for like under 41, and now all of a sudden you can't see any of them on the market.
Buckley
2022 for
says
45.
all these brands doing CPO is admitting killing the flipper recycler is bad for business. And I agree with that. I think that when you try to control the market from all aspects, you get pushed. You're gonna get like this kind of, because that's what it is. They want to control prices in all forms. Like they got the control of retail price, and then they're like, all right, well, since we're seeing our pre-owned prices sell for more than retail, we get to control that too. And right now, that it probably feels great for them, but I think that the flippers and recyclers were a very, very important part of the business. They were buying a large portion of these Rolexes, regardless of what they were doing with them. And I think that 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to see how things shake out. And it's not going to be super, super positive, I think, in the ecosystem for watches. I agree with Buckley on that. CQ, I like when my SA whispers nice things in my ear. She's an aspiring cougar. Don't hate. Wait, she's an
Hey,
aspiring cougar? Wait, hold on.
listen.
What?
Uh,
What? So is she younger and she may be hot when she's older? What does aspiring cougar mean?
I think so. She's about to cross over the age range, but I think he appreciates, you know,
Where do you
the whole package.
where do you buy your watches at? I might be interested in this aspiring cougar.
Oh man. What is gonna? So the whole thing with some brands need CPO, right? Zenith needs CPO. Ulysse
Breitling.
Nardin needs CPO. Brightland, which just announced their CPO, they need CPO. Omega needs CPO. Every brand that's Brigade, all Swatch Group, all Richmond Group needs CPO. All these brands who've existed for forever and ignored the secondary market, they need CPO. If your brand is being discounted 50% on the secondary market, who's gonna stand up for your brand except you? They gotta spend their dollars on their market and take some watches out, which many brands do behind the scenes, right? A lot of brands start buying up inventory to kind of cleanse the market a little bit. But the brands who don't need it are Rolex and things like that. They're already kind of humming and they're doing it in a way that value wise it just makes them look not smart. Oh, I didn't realize you weren't there. Anyway, so we got some great watches here at Takuya.
Well,
What do you guys
before you
think?
go there, I just wanted to ask you, Sequan, if Patek Philippe came out with the CPO program, how would you feel about that?
I think it would be great. I think they probably do it better than most, to be honest with you. I think they'd have a lot of neo vintage watches in their collection. I think it would a lot of collectors would more easily buy other watches besides Nautilus because they won't be so worried about the value and what happens on the trading side, especially if it's directly controlled or monitored by HQ. If it's controlled and monitored by Geneva, then you, somebody with a large secondary market paddock collection, even if you didn't always get it from one place. If you trade in a bunch of you could be known. You get to be known as a collector because man, he just amassed a bunch of stuff. So I think they could do it really well if it was controlled and monitored by the HQ. If it's done by 80 by 80, then don't do it.
Maul said that the Vacheron and Patek will never do CPO. 80% of the catalog trades below retail. But I mean, wouldn't that
Well,
be an incentive for them to do CPO?
I think there's a misunderstanding there. Like for the brand, it doesn't matter if it's below retail or not, right? They can just the volume and getting people into new watches directly at the brand level. Because what's your true cost of a watch, right? I could discount, I could make you think your watch is worth retail and trade it towards a perpetual tourbillon or something like that. There's so many ways you can play the game for me to make you feel good if you're doing it directly. So I think they could if they wanted to. It doesn't matter for them. You got to remember, Vimal, 5 years ago, everything was under retail. Maybe 7 years ago, 10 years ago, everything's under retail. So this world that we live in, where we compare things to retail, above retail, below retail, this is all new. So brands even they jumped in too early, which is what happened. They saw the secondary market do so well. They decided that there's no way this could just be a temporary bubble. They jumped in, started raising their retail prices, and the bubble popped. But this is what it's always been. Watches are not meant to go over retail unless they're very special, exclusive,
Wait,
limited
hold on,
watches.
Sequan, are you saying that watches aren't an investment?
In yourself, yeah. In your enjoyment, your experience of life, sure. But financially, you have to be very careful with that word with watches.
Interesting. Bamal said no because customers comes in and sees he got a watch for 30% below or buy a new one. Nobody's going to buy it new. The only reason to pick up was the journey. And I mean, I guess, but
So the thing is, Jay, a lot of these guys, unfortunately, have had like terrible experiences with essays and journeys. So like with this crowd especially, I don't think anybody here can be sold on buying a watch retail if the value doesn't make sense. And I completely understand. But what I would say, Vimal, for like let's say Shoot Original, right? Like it's a dog brand that I love very much. If they had a pre-owned program that could keep the secondary market level of their watches to let's say 25 to 30% off retail, they would still be able they would sell a ton of watches 5% off retail or at retail. Just because there's so many people who love the feeling of a fresh watch, fresh leather, the date you bought it on the paper, and they're okay taking a 30% loss. The problem is when that loss goes into 40%, 50%, 60%, that gap is just too much for people, and then they either need a big discount or something has to break there. But I think if brands can bring their secondary mark delta to 30%, you could sell at retail because a 30% loss is a natural part of the luxury buying experience, in my opinion.
I think that this whole idea that everything I buy goes up is really just tarnishing the watch community. Like these things are meant to be bought and worn, and like we talked about with the Patek's double sealed for these auctions, and it's just like, yes, some of these people did make out with a great 5, 10x on their purchase, but did they even enjoy the watch? Like they the mall talked about the journeys. Like, is did you even have the journey if you didn't get to enjoy the watch? And like I don't know. I don't know.
I I would love to pull the watch collecting community from 2019 to 2023, and I would love to know how many people bought a watch who actually wanted to enjoy that watch. And I think the over under might be 60%. You know what I'm saying? I think that's how crazy it got. I think there are enough people with enough money in their pocket because the savvy guys. A lot of our savvy collectors they just stepped back because it was madness, right? It just didn't make sense. And then there were just a lot of people who were very, very value focused who jumped in. So I think a large amount of people during the COVID market, I call it, they just bought watches because everybody said you should buy it, or it made like a financial sense, or they didn't get in on Bitcoin, so let's get in on Daytonas, that type of thing. I think the true, and that's why we find ourselves in this weird world where Vimal is not wrong to think about value because the brands don't care. They've shown that they don't care. The dealers, a lot of them shown that they don't care. And the SAs, oh my gosh, they'll sell you down the river for 2 cents. So we're in a very, very weird place at the moment. But I think that number is bigger than a lot of people think of people who swiped the card, said yes when they should have said no, and did not even try to enjoy the watch. They don't even like watches, but their buddy said, "Hey, you should put your name on the list, pick it up. Maybe you can flip it."
John D made an interesting point about who should be selling these watches. The problem with having beautiful women sell you watches is that you sober up the next day and then you saw you bought a Yuli Stardust for $50,000 and you return it.
Mhm.
So I get your point that like maybe if you had some hotter chicks selling watches, they might move, but still has an issue with the what the watch you actually bought is. What do you think about that, CQ?
Yeah, so I think I've told this story before. Maybe not here, but I tell it here. So, I was at an old company that I work for. We have a beautiful boutique in Madison and 57th. So when we open this boutique, all the big brands, everybody's sending like little CIA people to like scope it up, see what we're doing. We spend so much money on this place, blah blah blah. What's going on, Chad Vision? Good afternoon. Afternoon, everybody's here. So this big group comes in, right? And it's a group brand, right? A big group brand, a top brand, top 5 brands. And it's like the top leadership and all his cronies, right? They come in and they're looking around, they're seeing the space, they're seeing all the great watches, and we got some, big boys. We got the Journe, we got the Group of Force, we got all types of Patek's and Vacherons and all the glorious things. So I'm answering all their questions. They're asking a bunch of questions about the business and the store and why we opened. And then he's like, okay, listen, I have one very important question to ask you. I'm like, sure, what's that? And he said, do you think people who work in an establishment as this and who sell watches like this actually need to know about watches? What do you think their knowledge expectation should be? And like, I could fall to the ground, right? Because here's somebody who's at the top of the industry, who's done all these different things and probably has all these different accolades, and is at a top brand, leading a brand in the this century, and he still doesn't understand that I don't care how pretty you are. If I'm gonna spend $1 million, you gotta give me some steak with the sizzle. You gotta give me some education. You gotta give me some romance. You gotta tell me about finishing. You gotta tell me about the chronometry. You gotta tell me. You gotta show me that you have some type of scholarship to earn my $1 million. So I showed him a Google Force. I was like, I can't sell. I can't just hire a fashion model, male or female, to sell this watch. They can be beautiful, but they need to know what they're talking about. They need to educate themselves. But when you have conversations like that with somebody who's that high of a level, it let me know that the whole industry is like that. They just think, hey, we'll get people who are dressed super well. So they get people from the fashion industry. Nothing wrong with that. They get people who from the fashion industry and those type of industries who are dressed really, really well and they look great and they give you a great feeling. And they can do a little bit more than put you on a wait list before a manager has to come in and do the real education.
Yeah, it's it takes
CQ
a
became the
lot to
number.
sell. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So sorry. CQ became the number one sales guy in the islands for a reason, selling cruises. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. We
No, no, no.
shouldn't.
I was saying to Vimal. Vimal, you gotta
Oh, keep it up.
listen, listen, brother. What
That
happens? What happened
that
in
beard
the
has got him a lot
islands?
of sales. That's for sure.
That was like before the bid was stick by the way. What happened back then? The things that I had to do to get here today, I had to do, Vimal. And we're not gonna go back. And there's a lot of diamonds had to get sold
The thing is,
before
John
we
D, is
found them.
that I've met some very smart, beautiful women who knew watches, right? But it's like those same women aren't gonna dress themselves scantily, in my opinion. Like the women
Uh,
in watches that I knew their stuff aren't going to portray themselves as like a Hooters lady. So I think that there is a medium. I think we can have attractive women selling these watches. But like, I think it's kind of just like the WNBA when you're like, oh, they should lower the rim and they should play in bikinis. It's like, we could take some other measures before we get all the way down that line.
exactly. And there's some great essays that look amazing. It's not about looks, but you can't go looks first when selling watches because you don't care what I look like. Maybe you want to make sure I'm put together and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, like, do I know about the titanium Journe? And you know what I can tell you?
Yep.
Not only do I know about the titanium Journe, I made a video in tennis whites about Jordan Sport, and I think I'm going to show it to the people right now, just to show you how it's not about looks. It's about sweating, sweating in the sun.
Well, Trap Vision 3D, you're right. It is more of a greeter than a sales specialist. But the thing is, it's just like it goes back to people not understanding the market they're writing to. And so a lot of these ADs and companies are hiring based on like what they want to see, not what the consumer wants to see or what the consumer needs. And then they wonder why they don't sell watches for more than 10 grand. And all their average sales price is in the 5 to 7K range. Is because beauty can only take you so far. If you can't explain to me what cost means, or why is this chronometer certified, if you can't go into details that make Google Forza worth 120, like there's nothing the average person can tell me about Google Forza that would sell me into Google Forza. It takes somebody like Sequan who can run me through a whole laundry list of BS to me, but great stuff to others that will make you say, all right, I'm going to drop 150K for this hand engraved Google Forza. There's not a chick hot enough to sell me on a Google Forza. I just swear to God, I've seen some beautiful women. None of them can sell me a Google Force. None of them.
It's such a long sale, a group of forces sale too. Like, it's a
You
tiring.
had to fly from Dubai to sell a Google Force. You had to get in
But I
person.
sold it. It took me like oh man, for that sale, literally it took me 3 to 4 months of texting and prep. The flight was the easiest part.
You had to
But like,
ask him not to buy it in order for him to buy it. That's how hard a Google Force sale is. People do not understand. When you're selling a watch for over 80 grand, and I've sold a few over 80 grand, that it does not happen overnight. I mean, there are some people who are ready and they've been watching a watch and it becomes available, but most of these over 60K. If it's not a novelist, it's a conversation you're having for over a period of weeks, months, because it's a large decision for some people.
yeah, it's a large, complicated decision. You're not going to be able to sell it anytime soon. They're not all as beautiful as this uh, Google 4C double blind. See, I came to the wrong site to look at watches under
John D said
25,000.
that this is why you hire sales models, not just anybody. Got to have a tight body, but also know the product. I
Okay.
bet the tire kickers would be more interested. Yes, you're right. Tire kickers might become buyers when you have those two, strong, strong salesperson who's also attractive. You'll guilt me into buying something. Then there's like example. A few years ago, I saw a stunning SA at Breitling's flagship on Madison Ave doing serious sales, and her male colleagues holding up the wall, and that's a Breitling boutique. Oof. Yeah.
So that goes into a lot of different things, and like, listen, everybody has their own edge when it comes to sales, right? And oftentimes, if you're a lady, your edge can be a beauty. For me, my edge is like I'm from the islands. I'm very worldly. I can connect with anybody about anything. So I'm very easy to break the ice. What happens a lot of times in sales environments is a very savvy young lady who looks good. She's confident. She knows how to work it. Kills the room because all the guys are staring at her and they're like, oh my gosh, she's crushing it. And she's just like going about her day making money. A lot of times that's what happens. And like, again, all this happens because there's management the management themselves don't know how to sell. So it all trickles down. And like, what should
Hmm.
somebody selling watches? What do they do? What do they look like? How do they act? I would doubt most CEOs at any of the brands has sold a watch at ground level for sure.
Soho Watches of Switzerland has had a Grubel Force since February 24th. As of December 24th, they have not sold one, not one. And it takes a different type of Navy SEAL to sell that watch. Aside from Sequan's infatuation with the brand, you really, really have to know what you're talking about when you're talking about Grubel Force. It is just not an easy sell. It's you have to build it. It's like trying to convince a woman to be your wife. You got a lot of stuff you got to do before you can convince them to put that ring on, man. And Google Force, you buy Google Force, that's like an expensive divorce. Trap Vision said,
Basically.
I was in car sales years ago, and a lady I worked with was gorgeous, but her product knowledge was D at best. She made some sales, but failed overall. And The thing is, there is just like you can be beautiful, but like at some point, somebody's gonna come in there needing to know something very specific about cars, and your beauty is not going to help them whatsoever.
Facts.
Vimal said, "I feel bad for collectors who had to pick between FP Journe and Google Force, then choose Google. Google should have hired Diddy to sell its."
You, you know what's sad?
Well, hey, bro, I don't think Diddy has enough lube for me to buy.
Oh gosh. Anyways, the sad part about what Vimal just said is that many people had that decision, right? And it was between FP Journe, Grupo Forci. Maybe some people made FP Journe versus the Batoon decisions in the past. A lot of people, I remember these were all brands that like 10 years ago were great, but they weren't really like hot stuff. These are watches that you bought and like they were your watches. So most people who I keep saying it who made tons of money on FP Journe bought it as the same way you would buy a modern Brigade today. You know what I mean?
They just liked it. They just liked the vibe. They were a fan of the brand.
Exactly. You know that's actually a great example. People who were making money off of FP Journe are like people buying Brigade today. It's like you don't know what you're buying. You love, you're supporting, but you don't
And
know what the
you
end
probably
goal
get
is.
mad when I say this, but it's the same thing can be said about any investment, like Bitcoin, or like when people buy certain houses. I mean, houses is bad, but like sometimes you just buy a thing because you think that it's going to be worth something. Now, Epi Journe we knew was always a low production brand, just like Grupo. So I think that's why the juxtaposition came from Vimal. And I don't know, man. It's hard for me to not say you were crazy to think Grubel would be better than Jorn. Am I wrong in saying that, Sequan? If we
No,
go back in a time machine and we looked at the two watches, FB Jorn just seems to have watches that speak to more people than Grubel Force.
let's go to 1960.
And I say that because Grubel Force had a certain look. And even their sport watch, like when you think about FB Jorn, you can get they're known for just having very classic watches, but then they get very highly complicated. But my favorite one is the Chronometra Blue. Then the Elegante is beautiful, and then they also have the Line Sport. Grupo Forze has some amazing pieces. They all kind of feel and look the same.
Okay, let me see if I could get Grubel in here too.
Like I think that's the biggest thing. Jorn has such a variance from dial colors to the dial configuration and like even like the parking meter dial. You shoot me in the face because I don't know the exact terminology for it. So
No
different.
parking meter.
Whereas Google Force A, it's like all of them are just like the same watch, but like cut a little differently here and there. I don't know. Can you tell I'm not the biggest fan?
Yeah, the problem is with Grubel, a lot of the great things is, it's under the hood. It's all about the movement and the finishing, especially with models like the Convex series. You really eliminate seeing all of that beautiful technology. Because like I'll look at it here, great watch, fun watch. You have the escapement on an angle that's really really dope. Power reserve, the barrel's right here. But then when you flip to the back of the watch, it is a solid, not a solid case back, but like it just main plane of the movement. You don't really get all the amazing finishing and architecture you get like with a handmade one or one of the more classic pieces. Whereas pretty much, you know, any genre you look at, let's just pick a random that same parking meter you talk about. If we
So go ahead, sorry.
No, it's just if you flip it over, you're gonna always get the show.
100%. FPGA and Chronometric Blue is always going to be relevant. That design language is timeless. And like, so I recently have gone into content creation. I'm doing a lot of different TikToks about anime, and I remember showing Sequan um one of my videos, and I remember you Sequan telling me it was an amazing video because you could watch it without the sound on, and that's why I don't like Ruble because it takes me listening to you for 2 hours to convince me, oh, okay, that's why I like this watch. But if I look at this watch on mute with no knowledge outside of what I've been told, but as a FP Journe, it sells you on like the dial when you turn the watch around and you're like, there's a story here. I need you to tell me the story of every Google Force. That's the only way that I can be sold into it. Whereas I can pick up a Journe, like Vimal saying, you pick up the Chronometro Blue. If you don't feel something, you don't like art. You don't like art. You don't like art. You don't like the Mona Lisa.
Yeah. So and Joseph
Joseph
D, thanks
D.
for watching. He made a really good point in the wearability. So
Yep.
this is probably one of the more wearable Gruber Forces. Pre-owned, starting at 200,000, 180 for the plain dial, 43 millimeters, and still a thick watch. Right, these days 39, 40 millimeter seems to be where most people want to go. So definitely from a wearability standpoint, Journe wins, especially since when you think older Journe was 38 millimeter and 40 millimeter versus 40 millimeter and 42 like we have today.
Thank you, Cloud. Thank you. Glad to see we're on the same side today. um, because you're right. If I have to be told by Buckley says it as well. If I have to be told by a sales associate why this is better, mm, I should feel it, you know? And so that's why I feel bad for Global Forza because me and you both know, and pretty much everybody in this chat knows why Global Forza is great. But then now I got to go and tell somebody else why I paid $120,000 for a watch.
Ken's funny. I don't even know what the Gruber Force logo looks like, and it's so true. Ken, don't say it. This is what it looks like, Ken. Let us ingrain it in our memory. Oh my gosh.
Gamal says,
Yeah.
in my opinion, Global Forza and Deepatune collectors went into it because they wanted to be different, almost compensating for inadequate. I'm not ready to go into that conversation.
What
Um,
we say?
well, he's pretty much saying that like they bought it so that they could be different, and they may be compensating for inadequate. I don't agree with that statement entirely. I do think that they saw the success of Jorn, and they want to be part of something similar, and they're making their bets on these brands. That's what I would say about that. Like people who buy D Bethune, they do like the technology behind it, and they're I do think they're hoping that there's a FP Jorn like feverish following to come, and it could be. Never for Google Forza. They got to change the whole design of the watch. I'm saying it here live. They got to change something. What is
Let's
the
see.
retail price of a CB versus something entry in a G? Well, the Chronometro Blue. What's the retail on that? It's not even crazy. You just can't get it. That's the problem.
Who knows what it is now? It's probably like 40 or 50 right now. But no, Grubels, you're gonna start at a $150.
And as I
Probably
said,
200. Probably not even a $150. Honestly,
that's the crazy part about it. And it's like $250,000. You gotta. I don't even know what you got to do to sell me into a Google Force for $250,000.
it was hard. It was hard. That was probably one of the hardest sales in my life. It was a great sale, and he got a good watch. He should have kept it a little bit longer, but
Cloud
yeah.
Ken says, "I think like a flipper. Hence, me and Jay are like, yes, Cloud Ken, we are brothers in that. We are dolphin brothers, flippers. I love Flipper. That was one of my favorite shows.
That was a good movie. Oh, look at
Oh,
this AP. I've never seen this.
FP Journe was trading sub 20K. That was a bet. It's not betting when you get. That's true. No, no, no. You're right. Because people
But who
bought
took it
FP
as a
Journe.
bet?
No, no, no. Because I said that people buying D Bethune and Grubel are making their bets on what would be the next FP Jorn. And so he's right in saying, because you said it clearly, you were buying Jorn because you like the brand, and it just so happened to catapult into the stratosphere. Whereas D Bethune and Grubel Force say you are paying hand over fist. Not maybe not D Bethune, but Grubel Force say you're paying hand over fist to be part of the club. So you're definitely right about that, Jamal. You're right about that.
Buckley's a funny guy.
Oh.
Buckley's a funny guy. I like Buckley. Wait, I think Buckley's the head of the Spartan Club, by the way. You should ask him for an invite.
Bro, I can't keep up with the Spartans, but I like to work out, but I ain't ready for all that.
Nah, they're very committed. They're very, very committed.
That's funny, man. I can't even read what he said out loud. Anyways, I got brothers in arms still, man. I may be retired, but I got soldiers on the front line that I can't mess with, you know?
Listen, speculators will speculate, and if you are a speculating person, that was a move that most speculative people would make. Are these just the same watches over and over? I'm confused. No, they're not.
I'm trusting you on this one.
This is second time watches, by the way, founded by O.J. Watley.
Oh, is this his? Oh, that's
This is
amazing.
him. This is him.
Nice.
Yeah, he
I
has
like
good
that.
stuff.
I like that. He's got some interesting stuff. I like how he puts the retail there. Like, hey guys, I know retail is arbitrary, but here you go, so you can see that I'm giving you a good price.
He's always, always been about giving the most information
So
possible.
why?
I wouldn't say that we're the masterminds, but listen,
Look, let me tell you
a
something.
lot of battles were had. A lot of battles were had.
I ain't no mastermind. I'm a lot closer to a minion. I'm just missing the yellow paint.
Exactly.
Okay.
A lot of good work was done. Okay. A lot of good work was done.
Yes, we did help build the pyramids.
Yeah, somebody had to, and just like they'll look back and be like, I wonder how it all got up there, and no one will know. That'll just be, it'll be a wonder how the El Gante went up. Even the El Gante was not us. That happened on its own.
I feel like that was the Middle East. Like they just caught a wave and then they just.
It was. I forgot who there was like a lawyer who's also a sheikh out there, and he wore one, and it just went. I was selling them to dealers in the Middle East at 55. It was insane.
It's like a fever dream, man. These some nice watches.
Yeah, this is Del Rey watch, Federico. Shout out Federico.
Man, you know everybody, Sequan. You're famous.
A little bit. I've been around. I'm the tail of the industry, I just keep wagging.
Some folks are hyping up Simone Brett. Thoughts? Sequan, I've never heard of that one. Pull that one up.
You know what? Let's just show Jay a Simone Brett, and let's see what Jay will.
Oh Jesus! Y'all set me up, huh?
Nah, it's all because if I say something I'm always oh you're the inside guy. They're paying you the blah 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 blah.
Well, nobody pays me, so I'm just gonna shoot it straight.
Exactly. You're retired.
Oh God! If we're going to Hodinkee, I already know what kind of watch we're looking at.
So let me see if I can get a better shot of the dial, because it's all about. So this was the original one. So you see, it's all like I think it's hand hammered. There's a very interesting pattern there. Beautifully hand finished. A newer independent.
Is that ceramic that they're using for the like the indice wheel, to put the? Because it's a very interesting tone, especially on the first model. You know what I'm asking?
Black one or the rose one?
Well, both of them. They just have an interesting, what is the indices printed
No, it's
on?
not Oh. I'm not sure. I don't think it's ceramic, though. It's some kind of brushed feature.
It's not the worst watch.
So you'd pay 100 grand?
Is there a tourbillon that I can't see?
No, it's just super well finished.
No.
So the real question Vimal is asking, right, is what's happening now is I'll show you another watch. It's a good example of this. What's happening?
It's a nice
now,
watch, but I think that's a $45,000 watch for me.
Okay, boom. See, that's all. Toledo. Shoot.
He said, people look at John Mayer, wrong Mayer. I feel. Hey, you're right. That's the real mayor. He's the real mayor of Kingstown, if you know what I mean.
Hey, so Buckley, I texted him the other day, and I was like, listen, I've been away from you for a few years now, and I just want to let you know I have still not met anybody who works as hard day in, day out as Georgie, and the quality of work, the effort he poses in, the scholarship he has of watches and values as well, is just a different level.
I think I've seen George Mayer in a non-collared shirt 2 times in my entire 8 years of working in that
One.
company. No, no, it was like a Saturday. It was a
Oh,
Saturday.
okay, yeah. Saturdays, yeah.
That counts. That counts. And we also went to like a Eagles game, I think, and he was wearing a jersey.
Yeah, yeah. That
Okay,
was a
so
fun
five
day.
times because sometimes he wears his Eagles jersey, and the Eagles have been pretty successful. But yeah, never takes a day off. That's for damn sure. Oh, wait, what was the watch that you?
Okay, so look at this. This is called a Toledano and Chan.
Oh, you showed me this. This is the
Yep.
worst watch ever. Okay, it's not the worst watch
Okay,
ever.
some people say it. Some people say it.
I
But so
just
the point that I want to get to is these kind of both fall into the same type of situation, in that they're both brands that launch on the scene with tremendous support from individual enthusiasts, collectors, social media, watch media. So that means they immediately got sold out. They immediately start doing well. So in the case of a Toledano and Chan, this is a $6,000 watch. Some people feel it's a little bit expensive for a Solita movement.
how much is it?
6,000.
That's not bad. That's
It's not crazy. I understand when people say it's expensive, but I don't think that's crazy for something unique, a unique expression. Everybody got to make a little bit of money.
but
So
the
the
bigger
issue,
issue is the other one. Yes, we can go back to this one.
yes. So the issue that we come to when we go to watches like this, whether
What's
you
the
love the
complication,
watch,
Sequan? What beyond it telling me the time? What other complications?
I don't.
Please, I don't care about the hand finishing of the dial.
Well, that's what it's
Like,
all about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
so you're Gruber Force's younger brother. That's all I'm hearing. It's like, so at what point? Because I understand hand finishing, all that makes sense. Blah blah blah.
Making his own movement and all that,
Everybody makes
beautifully
their own
done
movement.
movement. So that's the thing, right?
That means
Everything.
nothing anymore. You know, like back in the day, that was something that was like proprietary. Oh my God, they make their own movements. Now, all I'm hearing is I got to go to one person. There's only one person who can service this watch. Otherwise, then somebody's gonna say that I didn't have it serviced right. Like, no, no, no.
So the issue I think Vimal is trying to get, and by the way, this is beautifully finished. Like this is amazingly finished. Like this is really,
Does the
really good.
finishing help me tell time? Like, it just always goes back
No,
to like, isn't Gruber Force's selling point 10,000 hours of hand finishing or some shit like that?
so so for certain watches. To the root of the issue, what Vimal is asking is, should you believe a brand that is fully hyped up and propped up as soon as it's released, or do
You know
you
what we
think?
call that in the music industry? A plant. Travis Scott, Pink Panthers, um, people who jump into the scene and out of nowhere they have this crazy success and they can't make a song that doesn't go viral. And it just makes me think, is this even real? Or is this just the industry propping up something that they want to be heard or want, like, so that's what I'm thinking when I'm looking at this. I'm looking at a watch and they're telling us, hey, low production, hand finishing, they should sell for over 100 grand. But I'm sorry, you don't dictate what these watches sell for. The consumer does. So let's see. Let's see if this watch goes on the secondary market for anything more than 65 to 80.
Oh no! So the first one that auctioned for I think 175,000, 200,000. But again, so the thing is what does the organic market look like, right? And so the real issue is, right, the person who buys this watch today has no idea in 5 years or even by the time they receive this watch what the value of this watch will be. Of course, these first early generation people, they know they're in for a solid situation. But if you get on a list today and say, hey, they can't deliver until 2028, what does the market look for this like for this watch for 2028? And the issue is, and I think a lot of collectors are feeling that the price point for these watches have slid up so far that it is to get into this 100, 110,000 in the future, 120,000, and that's a lot to spend if you
The
don't know if they're going to be
unknown,
there.
unknown. And we talked
Exactly.
about this with Hublot. I know it's not the same price point, but people were paying retail and whatever to get into Hublot 10, 15 years ago. And now those same people couldn't pay someone to take that watch off of them. So I get that
Yep.
this is different. And yes, it hammered at this price, but like we can go look at auctions from 10 years ago and then look at those watches and what they're worth today. That the auction hammer means only until the next auction. So many times I've heard like, oh well, the auction from, and it's like, well, there's an auction coming up next week. Let's wait. Let's see. Let's see. Because an auction price does mean something. It is the standard, but it's the standard until the new standard comes along. So a year from now, let's see if this watch is still worth 100 grand. Hey, kudos to you. Kudos.
Yeah,
Not you,
and I
but
think it.
Simone.
And I think it will be because this is a great watch. But I think the sentiment that Vimal was getting to is a very important one that a lot of collectors have to think about. Is that all these new indie watchmakers are coming out, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great stuff coming out of the Japanese market as well, some amazing pieces. And it's hard to say what's a good price anymore. Because there's some guys entering at 40, there's some guys entering at 60, and there's a lot of guys entering well over the six figures, and you're really trying to figure out, is it worth the wait? It's not a sure bet. Like the first person who bought this, that was free money. You know what I mean? The first 40 people who buy these, it's almost free money. But when it gets down to the 50th, the 60th, the 70th person, I think that's a lot. I think the issue is not just in the case of Simone Brett. I wouldn't say even Simone Brett. I would say with a lot of these independent brands, it's like they're coming in with this boom. They're coming in with this shock and awe campaign. They're hitting you with high prices, and we just don't know what exactly might be, rocking down the road. All right,
Well
so
said.
we got a few more minutes. I know Jay has to run,
Yeah,
and
I
I got
got
a meeting to run to as
five
well.
minutes.
Um, Look at this camo AP, 25 grand. Isn't that crazy? You remember these are like insane. These are super high.
I mean, if anything, this just echoes your point about AP losing its footing. It makes me sad because I like AP, but I mean, there's some truth to it. Because you're right, that watch was a watch. But people are onto their tactics. Once they moved to boutique only, man, that just left a bad taste in people's mouths, man. Like,
Wait, what's it? Bucky says it says Tupac video before he was Tupac was like,
is that, I don't even know. Is that when he's like in the
I,
tub or something?
I, yeah, exactly.
Okay, no, God.
Yeah.
Okay, what did Vimal say? I have been reading up on getting ChatGPT to run analysis. The next big watchmaker is going to be East Asian and most likely Chinese. To them to start figuring out. Hey, it's a possibility.
I would say, right, if I was a betting man, the Japanese watchmakers, they're cooking. The kids that are coming out of there are doing some crazy things, and I think that market will support its own so good, so good. So that's a market that I think the Japanese market, and I agree with you, the mainland Chinese market, if they will support their own, and the craftsmanship that's the one thing is like it's all about the real artisanship craftsmanship of the pieces, what you can do with different engraving and unique movements and stuff. And in these other places, they're bringing down the retail price, and that's what Atelier went. They kind of came on and they were giving you really beautiful engine turned dials for amazing price point, full tantalum watches. I think 105 grand or 6 grand or something like that. So I bet big on Japanese watchmakers. I'm having a lot of my clients look into those guys, and anything out of mainland China I think is great. But also other, there's a pocket. Shoot, where is it? Is it Cambodia? There's a lot of good watchmakers and good watchmaking schools that are in the East Asian region. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a great Indian watchmaker pop up again. Any place where the top level of the collector base will support, you're going to see growth. And places like Japan and mainland China and all over East Asia that have these rich histories of artisanship and craftsmanship in different fields, once they apply those elements into watches, once the youth see what watches can be and what can be done, they run to it. And yeah, Vima, I think you're on the money. I think a lot of people, they're chasing right now a lot of Americans, a lot of Westerners, a lot of Swiss people, a lot of Europeans, as they should, but they should not ignore a solid watchmaker who presents something that's maybe under 15,000. Philippe Pukulik, when he first came to the scene, under 12,000 for a lot of his watches. I'll just end on him since he's good.
The first auction is manipulation. The financial backers who plunk millions will pay six figures to get the. And it's true. I mean, we see it all the day, all the time in art. You know, I'm sure that a lot of these art paintings and stuff like that, there's a lot of weird things going around. We see it in crypto, the ether rocks being sold for 60, 70K. That's money laundering for sure. Now, I'm not saying that, watches are money laundering, but there's for sure market manipulation going on at these auctions to help these watches get to the heights they need to get. I'm not surprised when these things hammer for over what their auctions quotes were supposed to be. Like, it always bodes well for the brand when they sell for the high end. So why not make sure that that happens?
Yeah, and is it smart? It is manipulation, but I don't think it's not smart. And there's no regulation in the space, so it's something that's gonna keep happening. A great example, John D just said, Vimal, I kind of feel like there are really interesting things in 25 to 65K range, not height, just very interesting. I agree. A great example of that is Felipe Pekulik. A lot of his watches are under 25, under 30,000. Started around 10 to 15,000. This is a beautiful skeleton dial that I love. He does a new version every year. German watchmaker who really loves traditional watchmaking techniques, but decided to start on the lower side of the retail and then work his way up. There are a lot of watchmakers right now who are, they're doing everything amazing, but they're starting at six figures. It's just a big thing to chew. Felipe came out, his watches were 10, 15, 20,000. He was able to get a variety of watches sold. He was able to express his artistry in different ways. He made a very unique moon phase. He makes a bunch of different skeleton dials, and he's able to show some variety, show people his DNA, and now he's pointing himself into a more high-end realm. And I think that's the way you should do. Come in, I don't care if it's an ETA movement that you hand finish, come in a little bit lower, come in with something unique, earn the business, earn the fanfare, and then you could hit me with a 50K, 60K, 80K, 100K piece. And I'm not gonna cry and I'm not gonna criticize you so much because there were accessible steps to get there. Andrzej Burkis is another great example of people were able to get bespoke pieces from him for well under 20,000, and that was only maybe 5-6 years ago, and now he's up to over 100,000 just because he doesn't have the volume. He's doing it all on his own. So those are the watchmakers that I like. But great point, Vimal, in East Asian watchmakers being a great pocket of watchmakers to look at. My eyes are really focused on what they're doing in Japan. I think they're doing just some unique and excellent work out there. Any last word for the chat, Jay?
No, it was an interesting conversation, and I do agree that maybe they should take the route that some sales associates in our realm do, where they graduate with their consumer, and like this guy's putting in the work to get the people in at the 10 to 12 15K range, so when he starts building that higher end stuff, those people are going to follow him and on his journey to these larger, more expensive, more complicated pieces. But I do agree, a lot of these newer watchmakers want to start with the heavy hitters, and it's like, brother, you got to hit a layup before you shooting threes like Steph. Not everybody can be Steph. You can't always be the one who changes the game. Sometimes you got to go out, get hit, get fouled, hit the free throws. Go Knicks.
Go Knicks. What is their score, by the way?
I
We
don't
keep
know. I
doing
think
this, and we got New
it's
Yorkers on.
well, no, it's
Oh,
2-1, and the Knicks are gonna win tonight. They're gonna take it back to New York.
there you go. There you go. All right, I'm gonna leave you guys with this beautiful Andrzej Burkis piece. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please like, upvote. If you need any assistance, make sure you reach out to cqthewatchguy.com. If you need any independent watch advice, if you need somebody to bring watches to you, inspect them, help you curate your collection. You got 100 watches, you need to sell them all. CQ the Watch Guy is your CQ the Watch Guy is your guy. And for extra fee, I'll bring retired watch guy Jay along. But that's a premium thing that you gotta negotiate with him. I'm not
I'll
involved.
even sing Saquon's intro song, but we won't release it until we pay the
Oh,
fee.
there you go. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Peace out.